Ah! Now, okay, yeah, for sure. This is the one.
There you go.
Okay. Chapter 5. Night of the Witches. Part 1. Sojiro returned to his apartment on foot, as per routine, under a blanket of clouds in the night sky. The rusty stairs of his apartment building clanged with each step. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see the bicycles parked by the apartment building's outer wall. He debated the pros and cons of a bicycle, like how much easier life would be versus the expense, the convenience versus the necessity, but in the end, decided one was not right for him just now. Clutching the bag of apples under his arm, he took out the key to his residence. Go ahead.
A bike sure would be convenient, but it's not like... Thanks, phone.
He tilted his head in confusion at the sound of his notification. More and more, he found himself preoccupied with such random thoughts, when the real issue at hand was deciding what to do with the apples he had received. He placed the paper bag by the sink and switched on the lights. It was just after 10 in the evening. With the end of term exams just around the corner, he had come home an hour earlier than usual. As he made back for the kitchen to pick one of the apples to snack on, he found an envelope stuffed in his mail slot.
Suspicious.
The envelope had no name, return address, or stamp. Inside was a single piece of paper that had only the sender's name and a short message. It read, and I'll have you do this, Nancy.
There's something we need to talk about tonight. It's important, so I'll be waiting. Needless to say, keep this a secret.
A concise set of orders, neatly written. It was signed Aoko Aozaki. She had been considerate enough to enclose a detailed map of the meeting place. Puzzled, he cocked his head to the side, then headed out the door. Afterward, upon the room's sole tenant leaving the premises, the envelope burst into flames and evaporated without a trace, as though it had never existed in the first place.
I wish I could do that.
What kind of murder are you planning? What the heck?
No, it's for secret messages. It's cool.
By the late 80s, Japan's post-war economic boom had somewhat stabilized and the city experienced a period of steady growth. The city's modernization marched on, and the Japan Railways train station, a symbol of the new era, neared completion. In Misaki's neighboring town of Yashirogi, a new symbol of its own was about to be born. Yashirogi bred and Kitsi land. It was Misaki's worst investment. Years later, it would be dubbed the fool's gold of the economic bubble, a relic of a bygone age. Kanye.
Is Sojiro?
No, I think it's just random people.
Okay. The city lacks aspiration and sophistication.
10 years ago, Yashirogi's renowned Tokitsu Baking Company ran factories all across the nation. Its proprietor was a middle-aged gentleman, then age 56, by the name of Yurihiko Tokitsu, known affectionately by most as Toppan. He took it upon himself to begin development on an estate on the outskirts of Yashirogi and broke ground on a recreational wonderland that he had hoped to be the pride of Misaki City. The long-awaited opening came in 1981. After 3 years of investment, this local amusement park, full of all kinds of hopes and dreams, began its short-lived tenure. It covered more than 85 square acres, Its magnificent merry-go-round dazzled all who passed through the park's gates. Its roller coaster twisted and turned about the edges of the park like a writhing Japanese dragon. Its Ferris wheel, packed beyond necessity with gimmicks, was said to have tested the limits of modern engineering. Go ahead, Nancy, and welcome in, Erin.
Hello.
Hi, Erin.
The tea helped.
There you go.
Yay!
Woo!
It's perfect, infused with everything an amusement park could ever need.
Old Yurihiko looked upon his creation and smiled. Only boosting his confidence was the fact that his grand opening was staged during a period of prosperity, the springtime of the world. But, in spite of this, they splendidly miscalculated the balance between aspirations and sophistication. Its mascot, Kitsy, was poorly designed and appeared like a cheap knockoff. The park was stuffed to the brim with bread stands. Even its impossible to navigate mirror maze screamed out of date from the start. Erin, if you could do this one.
There are no dreams to be had here at Kitsyland, only nightmarish satire.
Numerous trade magazines lambasted Kitsyland's shortcomings, and customer attendance declined. There was even an incident where a 6-year-old strayed from his mother, had an accident, and nearly died. 1986, 5 years after the park opened. The situation had grown from bad to worse, and the park was hemorrhaging money. On top of everything, Yurihiko, who had bet everything on the success of the mascot Kitsy, retired, and Kitsyland's operations were officially in trouble. And thus, amidst the scorn of nearly all residents of the area, ended Misaki City's one and only amusement park. What's more, perhaps best described as a footnote to this debacle, the self-proclaimed Parisian artist who designed the mascot, Toki Julik, was said to have snapped his brush in mourning over the closure of the park. Returning to the present. It was midnight, and the Kitsyland of today was a shadow of its former glory. Like a doll abandoned in the corner of a toy box, the lonely park was illuminated only by the light of the town that continued to live around it. Trying to remember. I think this is Sojiro. Would you say, Kanye?
Maybe?
Well, go ahead and go for it, in any case.
So that's what happened.
Sojiro closed
Yes.
the Yashirogi, guidebook that he had picked up on the way here. The story of its history was almost difficult to believe, but he supposed this is what people refer to as entropy. The park's front gate was unlocked. When he had worked here the previous time, the iron fence was locked shut with a rusty chain. But the chain was nowhere to be seen, and the gate left ajar. Following the map drawn in the letter, Sojiro quickly made his way inside.
It sounded urgent, but to meet this late at night? What in the world could she want?
Sojiro complained, quite out of character for him. It was probably because, in spite of his naivety, even he knew that something was amiss. Though the park was abandoned, this was still trespassing. Unlawful entry, larceny, burglary. These were certainly not things, or perhaps crimes, that Sojiro was proud to do. But
Sorry, I can't pay you any money. I'm really sorry for coming in for free.
God, what a good boy.
Aww.
Money apparently was why his conscience was gnawing at him. He clapped his hands in apology toward the statue of Kitsy, on whose eyes the paint had begun to aptly dissolve. Sojiro passed the mascot bleeding red paint from his eye sockets and began to walk the night park.
Creepy.
Oh yeah. The building's colors had faded. The collection of machines was rusted. The man-made residents no longer felt the passage of time. Even the ghosts themselves could not endure the disparity between this forsaken place and its previous grand stature. It was like a fossilized dream. These were the ruins of a paradise both created and abandoned by man in reality. The economy had stabilized, and the standard of living was on the rise. Nobody was overly concerned with the future. These were the remains of a wild and exciting era. His breath, what the hell? His breath turning to white wisps before him. Sojiro continued through the abandoned amusement park. Though void of human presence, this was not nearly as frightening as the darkness deep in the mountains. City suburbs can take many different forms, but Kitsy Land was unusual for an amusement park in so much as it had been built adjacent to a residential district. The park was surrounded by a forest, but even that ultimately was man-made. It was no different from the curtains of a classroom window. If he were to scale the iron fence encircling Kitsy Land and break through the 20 yards of afforded trees, he could make it back to the familiar townscape. Though, the amusement park tended to arouse dread in the city folk. To Sojiro, it was a little different from the commotion and terror of downtown. Alright, let's switch it up. Nancy, I'll have you do the narration.
Sure.
Go ahead, Kanye.
I guess that's it.
The central plaza was as silent as a grave. According to the map, the meeting spot was west of here. Waiting for Sojiro at his destination was a rugged, imposing, magnificent castle towering before the backdrop of the cloudy night sky. Even for an abandoned park, it was a remarkable structure. If the roller coasters and the Ferris wheel were loud, intense attractions, this was comparatively quiet and easygoing. It was one of Kitsy Land's 3 iconic structures, and in a way, the wicked forest that guided this paradise down the path of closure. Generally speaking, amusement park mazes generally fell into one of 2 categories.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
You read my mind. Labyrinths, which disorient visitors with their sheer size, and mirror houses, which disorient visitors with optical illusions. Many of a labyrinth's guests enjoyed the brief sense of adventure that it afforded. Over the years, however, it would be usurped by the ever-increasing thrills of new attractions. Such was the way of all trends, the curse of fads. Oh God, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
The new must give way to the newer. On the other hand, the House of Mirrors was a time-honored, beloved staple. Even within the confines of a classroom's dimensions, well-placed mirrors and well-directed light could both perplex and delight its visitors. And, figuring in the cost of maintenance, a well-designed House of Mirrors could far outlive its labyrinth brethren. Even if both types faded into obscurity, they would remain a staple of what constituted an amusement park. However, that didn't mean that combining them would produce double the fun. Together, they transformed from entertainment into an uncanny realm from which those who dared to step within could never leave. In a similar sense, Kitsy's Mystery Tour Castle was the park's very own otherworld. Indeed, 5% of visitors ended up requesting staff assistance to get out. Modeled after European castles, it was greater than a football field in length, and the interior was further split into 3 floors. Wow.
God. Yeah.
That is a huge area to get lost in.
Yeah.
How would they expect people to find their way in and out of that thing?
Only 5% of visitors?
That's what I was saying.
I have not seen a good House of Mirrors yet either. I agree.
Mhm.
2 floors above ground and 1 below, lined with mirrors from top to bottom, equal parts complex and vast. The maze demanded at least 30 minutes, even from veterans.
Cool.
Not as bad as an escape room, though.
Yeah.
One visit was all it took to be struck by cataptrophobia. Catoptrophobia. Oh boy. Is that the right way to say that word?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, go back!
We actually got back in the right place. So let's start from this, and then we'll go back to the current one.
Can you share this?
Oh, God, dang it.
Yes, cheers. Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, my immersion. Come on, man.
Oof. Okay.
What is that? Is that the fear of mirrors? Or is it misspelled?
Catoptrophobia. Catoptrophobia.
It's not misspelled.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's it,
it's an
the-
extreme and overwhelming
Yep.
fear of mirrors.
Oh no. That would be a horrible place to be stuck for 30 minutes if you had a fear of mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, why would you go there?
That it's going to give you that phobia from being in it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true.
What if you didn't know and you just went in?
I think you'd know before then.
Maybe you didn't. Maybe this was your horrible
You've
awakening.
never seen a mirror before in your entire life until you got here.
Maybe there's just like a
Well-
threshold. Like, you see one mirror, you're
Yeah.
like, okay, that's fine. You see 2 mirrors, it's like, okay, this is weird. And then someone has like, I don't know.
And then you're in like the maze.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like tryptophobia. It's not bad for you and
Oh,
it doesn't
God, I think
actually
I-
strike
yeah,
the
no,
phobia.
I didn't find out I had that until I saw photos of it.
Well, see, that's the thing. You don't know until you actually see something that's triggering.
Mm-hmm. But mirrors are a lot more common than a bunch of little holes in someone's hand.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see this many mirrors in one place normally. Okay. One visit was all it took to be struck by catoptrophobia for hours. It was this labyrinth that now stood in Sojiro's way.
Go ahead, Kanye.
It looks like it's entirely pitch black. I guess somebody turned the lights on.
It seemed that Sojiro, unaware of what a House of Mirrors even was, concerned himself only with its lighting. He checked the letter from Aoko once more. The letter read,
Go ahead for this one, Aaron.
I will be waiting in the first floor lobby of the House of Mirrors.
that meeting place was definitely here. There was something to see by at least... Wait, there was something to see by at least...
There was something to see by at least, yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
think-
that's an interesting string of words.
Yeah, I think having another comma would have helped.
Yeah, there should be a comma after by to make that clearer.
Thank you. Thank you for validating me. There was something to see by, at least, as he could just make out light faintly through the open doors. Putting aside his suspicions, he headed toward the entrance. The sound of his steps against the brick-laid path echoed faintly. He was far from the hustle and bustle of the city. The park's clocks no longer made tick nor talk. And the winter's bite no longer blew in the night. From within the silence, the stillness that would cause any onlooker to hold their breath.
Kanye?
Hello?
Sojiro stopped abruptly at the entrance to the House of Mirrors.
By the way, why are you over there, Haosaki?
He called out, turning back toward the plaza. A sound rang out, as if someone had dove behind a garbage can and it fell to the ground in their haste. A short silence ensued. For a moment, the abandoned park returned to its previous hush. Resigned to her having been exposed, the girl appeared from her hiding place.
Oh,
Oh!
cool pants.
Oh,
Boots
oh,
again.
new outfit!
Mm-hmm.
His voice died in his throat as he took in the sight of the girl's familiar face in unfamiliar attire. This Aoko with her long hair flowing in the breeze was different from the Aoko that Sojiro knew. Oh my! The resolute stance and posture she took exuded the strength of her will. She stared directly at him with a sharp-eyed, piercing gaze. Her eyes were glowing with a dim phosphoric light, enough to give Sojiro pause that he might be hallucinating.
Here's a good look of it.
Ooh. I like those boots, I want them.
Yeah, the boots are nice.
An icy coldness and a girl's strength. Sojiro lacked a sense of danger, but the sense of imbalance caused him, even him, to feel the malice in the air. It was as though the Yuki-onna, spirit of folklore, had climbed out from a ghost story and appeared here in reality.
Haosaki?
Instinctively, Sojiro took a step back. Surprised, he was starting to feel concerned. An unpleasant premonition rose to the surface, bringing with it a sense of anxiety. In spite of this, he felt obliged to honor urban etiquette by seeing if she was all right.
Did something happen to you? From the looks of it,
Without acknowledging him, Aoko took a step forward. Her figure, this atmosphere, Sojiro found himself recalling a recent memory. His twisted and knotted apprehension melted away and was replaced with a growing realization. The girl before him was very similar to someone he had seen before. That night in the park, though he'd only seen her from behind. With increasing certainty causing him to swallow nervously, he noted that they might as well have been identical.
You asked me what I was doing. Well, it's exactly what it looks like. I was waiting for my prey to pass by. Once you went inside, I was going to follow and cut off your only route of escape.
Aoko said, perturbed by the swift change in plans.
Phew. So I came to the right place.
Sojiro was mightily relieved he had not gone to the wrong place.
What do you think is so funny, Aaron? The fact that he was just easily thwarted.
He's more concerned about the fact that he found the right place than everything else.
Fair.
The fact that his life is not, might be in danger, he's like, whew.
The fact that she literally just said, I'm gonna cut off your route of escape.
No, it was I was waiting for my prey to pass by.
Yeah,
And now he's just like,
the whole everything.
oh, thank goodness I didn't get the wrong place. Whew!
Yeah, that could have been me, guys.
Well, at least I died with the dignity of being in the right place, like I promised. It was unclear whether he felt confident about dealing with what was to come, or if he had simply failed to grasp the hopelessness of the situation. Aoko ignored his obtuse response and continued.
You know, Shizuki, just like anyone else, Some people get on my nerves, and some people I just really hate. But the funny thing is, my enemies are never people on my shit list.
Cold emotion burned in her eyes. Her feet had already moved one step closer to Sojuro. Sojuro's sense of foreboding was growing stronger. Wondering if what he sensed was bloodlust, he retreated another step. Continuing as so, they maintained a distance of just 15 feet.
As far as I can recall, I've never thought of someone I didn't like as an enemy. As it happens, I've even had enemies that I've liked. And the reason is simple.
She held her right arm out. The light about her was no illusion.
It's simple, really. Anyone who throws me out of whack is my enemy.
Her arm moved again. It was instantaneous. Something shot past Sojuro in the blink of an eye, missing him by just a foot to his left.
What?
Before his eyes, a blue light, something akin to a fireball, had ignited from nothing. He finally understood what was happening.
Wait a second. I've seen this. I've seen one of those before.
She ignored his dim-witted reaction.
Damn it, I missed.
Alco muttered to herself. The fist-sized hole the blue light had made in the House of Mirrors crackled and smoldered. A shot like that could have easily caved in a human's skull in addition to burning it to a crisp.
I'd have to kill myself if Alice saw me miss at this range. But you get it now, right? This is it for you. There won't be a second chance.
Sojuro backed away swiftly. Things were beyond incomprehensible. He was close to losing the ability to think at all. All he could make out was the figure of the dependable student council president, or at least what he had thought was the president, and the memories of the park that night 2 days ago. He had never experienced anything like this, though most people living in a civilized country would have never seen anything like it either. A lethal weapon that could kill with nothing more than the pull of a finger had a way of suspending the ability of its target to determine between not just good and evil, but dreams and reality, past and future. And the more peaceful someone's life had been, the stronger that suspension was likely to be. All that one could think about was the fact that they were alive at that very moment. It was as if he was an unwritten character on a blank piece of white paper. There was no before, there was no after. There was only what came next. This was a very common thought process for anyone staring down the barrel of a gun.
Oh, don't bother begging. It's pointless. But feel free to air your grievances. It's a killer's duty to listen to her victim's last words.
By saying it was pointless, she made it sound more like she would not listen to what he had to say. However, Sojuro was in such a state of shock that it did not even enter his mind to speak up. All he knew, for reasons unknown, was that the girl in front of him wanted him dead.
You could have told me, Tobimaru. You said that no such thing exists. Well, how about now, idiot? There's a monster right in front of me.
Sojuro felt that if he had said that aloud, the second blast would come even quicker than the last, so he kept it to himself. His mental expletives stirred his mind from paralysis to mere panic. This response came not from confidence, however.
Kanye.
Someday, out of the blue, someone is going to kill me.
While it may have seemed like a baseless belief to hold,
Oh, but now that I think about it, murders happen all the time in cities. I should have remembered. If you break the rules, you get killed. I knew that already.
to Sojiro, the situation seemed to perfectly align with his inexperienced understanding that the city was a coldly pragmatic place. As far as he was concerned at this moment, being killed by a classmate was not something to be so surprised by. In a society where murder was possible, he was able to accept this sort of situation as natural. Of virtually no concern was the series of events that led to Alko's aggression toward him. The only thing that truly confused him was Alko's blue fireball. Sojiro swallowed with an audible gulp. To anyone who may have been watching, it was the response of a victim paralyzed by fear.
That's right. So you do finally get it. I'm all out of words, so I think it's time you died. I could go on about how magecraft has to stay hidden, but that doesn't really have anything to do with you. All you need to know is that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that it was me who killed you.
Done talking, Alko once again lifted her right arm. There was a hum like a machine. Blue light began to revolve about her arm beneath her sleeve. This was taking longer than last time, leading Sojiro to believe that it was going to be much stronger than the attack that was still scorching the wall behind him. The realization caused his panic to heighten.
No, wait. It's not about me having to die, or the fact that the monster that night was actually Aozaki, or even whether she's a part of the church. It's not about any of that.
His thoughts became jumbled. His heart pounded like a hammer. This was no time to be standing still. He was not sure if the girl in front of him was really human, and more importantly, even if he could accept the events unfolding before him, when all was said and done.
Wait! It's wrong to kill people!
They die when you kill them.
He's right.
It's true!
Can we get a true in chat?
Even if it was a fact of life in the city, Sojiro was not about to lie down and die.
Don't you think I know that?
Hey, wait!
Sojiro's scream, still entirely oblivious, was just the thing to invoke Alko's full wrath.
Ah!
Alko fired a barrage of magical blue bullets. In an instant, Sojiro dashed into the shadows behind him, into the entrance to the House of Mirrors.
What the heck was that?
He darted feverishly down the hall. After a mere few feet, he was left completely out of breath. This was due to his shock at seeing yet another attack, fiercer than the first, that he'd never seen in his life. And before, he couldn't shake the thought that if he had moved even a second later, he would be dead. He could not afford to stop. The sound of merciless footsteps closed in behind him.
I bought myself some time. Maybe I'll be able to figure something out.
He threw everything into his legs as he sprinted. A straight, narrow passage about 60 feet long connected the entrance to the main lobby. At this rate, if he could just make it to the lobby, he was sure he would be able to find as many hiding spots as he needed.
Thank God.
He arrived in a large open space. This was the first floor lobby. There were 3 passageways. One led to the basement floor, one connected to the first floor maze, the other was a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Sojiro did not particularly care which one he chose, so trusting his intuition, he made a run for the first floor maze when
Out!
he smacked his head into a transparent wall.
A mirror?
That's right. It's annoying, but I guess that makes things fair.
The chaser.
Yep, that's still Aaron.
That's
Oh,
Aaron.
sorry. The chaser and the chased are on equal ground.
A somehow cheerful voice echoed in his direction. There was no need for Sojiro to even turn around.
Sorry, guys. You can't see it on your screen, but she's right in the reflection.
What?
Right
Why
there.
can't we
Bottom
see
right.
Why
it?
can't we see?
There,
It's
everybody
right in the
right.
corner.
Oh!
Hello.
Oh. In the very same mirror he had crashed into, he could see Aoko Aozaki's figure slowly approaching.
You should know, I sealed off the first floor exit deeper inside. Physically, not with a bounded field. Is calling it a seal going too far? Maybe plugged or buried works. Either way, if you get too close, you'll be swallowed by a cave-in. I recommend keeping your distance if you don't want to be buried alive.
Panicked by the impending footsteps, Sojiro groped for the wall. He could see the stairs to the second floor. He did not understand what Aoko had meant earlier, but he at least knew that the first floor was not going to save him.
It would save me a lot of trouble if you'd just died that way, though. The cleanup is much easier for accidental deaths.
Behind him was a creature beyond words. As she continued her idle taunting, she lifted her right arm ostentatiously. Even from above her clothes, one could see some kind of strange, incongruous pattern upon her body. The veins beneath her skin. They made it seem as though something inhuman was circulating her body. Whether out of pity or repulsion, Sojiro stopped for just a moment. His pursuer evaded his gaze.
You've noticed then. I normally hide it with ointment, but today is special. It's called a magical crest. It's proof that I'm a mage. You see this light revolving around me, right? It's the beginning of what formed that snap, those bullets. I'm feeling pretty good today, and I've never felt more confident in how to use my magical energy efficiently. I think I'm good for another 30 bullets or so.
Perhaps she was on an emotional high, for her voice had become frightfully friendly. The substance of the conversation could not have been any more unsettling, however.
I don't understand a thing you're saying, Aozaki.
That face.
You don't? I'm telling you I have 30 more shots in the tank. If you can escape before I use them up, it's your win. For today, that is.
For today? You mean I have to do this tomorrow, too?
Oh my god. Sojiro knit his brows. Aoko's expression creased into a scowl at his behavior. Although he was panicking, it seemed that deep down he still did not feel the full weight of the crisis. She knew he still didn't get it.
I said my piece. Free time is over. I may still have some trash talk left in me, but, well, there's never enough time to get it all off my chest anyway. Just give up already.
It appeared Alco had prepared this theatrical dialogue ahead of time. Not to allow her opponent time for futile pleading, but to give him the time to curse her, his killer. Such forthrightness was her modus operandi. With this victim, however, it was not going as she had hoped.
Anyway, that's all I have to say. Shall we begin the hunt?
Her voice was void of emotion, and her eyes ruthless as they bored into her prey. This time, Sojiro finally accepted that he was going to die.
All right, well done. Let's change it up. Let's have Kanye do the narration.
Awesome.
That was good practice. Thanks.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. Silent as the dead, it stepped into the remnants of a dream that had long since seen no visitors. There was no wind this night, nor soul to be seen. Still, it heard the echoes from within, clasped its hands together, and grinned. Its form, hands clasped, resembled that of a budding tulip. The bearing of its artificial flower reflected in the cloudy mirror of the ticket attendant's office next to the gate. Next to it stood a display board, corroded by years upon years of rust. Number of visitors today? 2. Number of today? The board had graffiti crudely scrawled up the top of one of the words. It was replaced with deaths. The records board had long ago fallen to disrepair. After taking a full 10 seconds to digest what it was looking at, it made its own revision. Number of visitors today? 3. Number of deaths today? 1.
I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but look in the reflection. What do you see?
Oh shit.
It's kind of dark, I can't tell.
The fuck has thing? I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
It has the same little air vent hairstyle that Aoko has.
Indeed.
Oh.
Oh jeez, that glow!
After appending this number with an index finger, she smiled like a flower. Then she began to walk toward the source of the sound. It had been 10 minutes since the rhapsody had begun to echo from the House of Mirrors. The amusement park's entrance returned to as it was before, soulless.
Aoko Undertale.
In the end, even if Sojiro had been the luckiest man alive, there was no way he should have been able to escape. The question, however, was how much of this was by design, and how much was sheer coincidence. Even Alco, who had made all the arrangements, had no answer. Indeed, there was only 3 things she could say. It was taking longer than expected. He was putting up more resistance than she had anticipated. And that choosing the House of Mirrors had been a mistake.
I think anyone could tell you that would be a mistake, honestly.
She had really screwed the pooch on this one.
That 90s-ism.
Yeah.
The location itself was an excellent choice, as the House of Mirrors was perfect as a hunting ground, but seeing her own incompetence reflected in the mirrors was beginning to grate on her.
I'll go ahead and go as Sojiro. Ah!
The moment Ako's right arm began to glow, Sojiro made a beeline for the staircase in front of him. A strobing series of blue flashes lit the room behind him. The hunter calmly followed her prey, and the prey desperately ran for his life up the stairs.
Let's have you do this, Nancy.
Just what the doctor ordered. We can't very well let the best laid plans go to waste now, can we?
In stark contrast to Sojiro's frenzied escape, Alaka walked briskly up the stairs. She elected not to run after her prey in order to maintain a set distance. As she lacked confidence in her accuracy, she would be the most challenged if Sojiro bull rushed her and went down fighting. But at a distance of 30 or so feet, he posed no threat. By the time her prey drew near, she could fire 10 shots and hit him with at least 4 of them. Their positioning just a moment ago hadn't been ideal. At this distance and a space this open, there was a chance, however small, that it could turn into a fistfight if he flanked and charged her. Currently, Ako's best weapon was the bullets from her right arm. She was going to capitalize on that advantage. It was in her best interest not to close the gap between them.
So just random small tidbits that I think is always just nice in a game like this. It is her right arm, but of course in the mirror they made sure to make it that it's
Yeah,
like reflective
just thinking
properly.
that.
Continuity is so important.
Like I just wish some of the sentences were so weirdly worded. This game would just
Yeah,
be just about perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as we say every time, one more editing pass.
Just
maybe
one more.
Yeah.
two.
yeah.
Mhm.
The 4 of us would have made for like one good edit.
Yeah.
If there was a good time to approach, it was only after her prey had become exhausted and had lost the will to continue. Would she pierce his leg, shoot him in the back? Or, perhaps, would he just give up after losing himself in the labyrinth? The hunt would end when her target sustained some sort of injury and had become unable to run. On Sojiro's end, he could barely bite back on screaming as he bolted through the maze. Even running in a straight line had become difficult, much less searching for an exit.
Ow!
Corridor stretched out far before him, or so the mirrors blocking the path had made it seem. Panicked, he made a turn to the right.
Ow! That hurt! The
Clutching
timing.
his head and his right arm, the Sojiro led his left, groping through the air to see whether a wall was there or not. He dove down the hall to the left, narrowly dodging the bullets targeting his life. Urged on by the sound of approaching footsteps, he ran without thinking. The last one was close. A hair closer would have meant his life. He got the odor of burnt hair from the back of his neck. He was very lucky. Or perhaps very unlucky. If he were actually lucky, he would not be in this situation in the first place. The second floor of the House of Mirrors was structured like a giant spiral. A wound left starting from the outside wall.
It would be wound.
Wound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wound. Eventually, it would lead to the dead end. The more he tried to escape, the more cornered he would become, as though he were trapped in a twisted guillotine. His stifled screams threatened to leak out as complaints. No matter what he did, he was going to be killed. All his struggling merely served to prolong the inevitable. Yet he ran. No matter how many mirrored walls he ran himself into, he ran. Even after crashing so hard that his forehead bled and he saw stars, he ran. Pain shot through him at every turn. The more frantically he ran, the more intensely he smashed into the invisible walls. His body began to understand this rule and begged him not to run anymore. His breath was already ragged after sprinting a couple hundred feet. No matter how he thought about it, this was not normal. This was way too crazy. This is all just a bad joke. If he had turned around now, she would apologize to him for taking it too far. His mind had gone blank. As his body continued to slam into the mirrors again and again, his feet slowed as he began to believe that perhaps it really was all a joke. But then he felt a chill, a touch of death upon his neck. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Sojo knew this kind of terrible chill far too well. Ever since he had arrived in the city, he had come face to face with more than one or two near-death experiences. For someone who did not understand city life, his present predicament was not unlike when he experienced the traffic on the streets or the commuter rush on the station platform. He was far from an innocent babe unable to comprehend life or fear. Rather, everything he had known became irrelevant when he was flung into a completely different cultural sphere. Even society's promises of safety, something urbanites took for granted, were threats unknown. So, he was used to this already. Though, if he were to be honest, he was dissatisfied with some things. Things superfluous to necessity. This world was overflowing with valueless things, and they were all dangerous in some way. Even the everyday necessities sold at the convenience store were, as far as he was concerned, amazing tools. Civilization had raised the standard of living so high that it had numbed humanity's sense of danger. The city's constant pursuit of wealth and convenience was a poison to a country boy like Sojiro. And he did not have the capacity to accept these conveniences. That it was possible for such conveniences to easily and suddenly be misused and cause unintended accidents had always made him anxious. Why? He had wondered why he was even here. How ironic. It took the real threat of death to finally make him realize. Like a divine revelation we had failed to understand until now. He had always had to expect the unexpected. Near-death experiences were more common than one might think. To begin with, safety was something that came at a price. Being alive meant that the opposite was always lurking around the corner. It was just like a streetlight at night. When the sun rose, its illumination would naturally disappear. Another barrage of strange projectiles whizzed mercilessly by him. He recalled in the back of his mind the charred remains of someone at the hands of that blue flame 2 nights prior. Somehow the situation reminded him of a horse being led by a dangling carrot. For now, he lifted his head and continued to run to the labyrinth. But for what purpose? Though he knew the pain in his chest was very real, he felt disconnected from it. The night sky visible through the skylight was a muddy ultramarine, no longer resembling the one he knew. And managed to calm himself. Sojo began to laugh in despair as though something rather precious had been broken. Everything had become meaningless anyway. Even so, his legs somehow made their way forward at the sight of a reflection in the mirror. Like a game of cat and mouse, Sojiro fled through the labyrinth of mirrors. Then, after 4 minutes, that strangely unreal tension ended. The 9th shot and the night shot of blue light hit inches away from him. It exploded the moment it made impact, launching Sojiro into the opposite wall. All the fire he had taken thus far, this shot indisputably brought him the closest to death. Groaning, he collapsed to the floor. His back was on fire with pain. He was not bleeding, and was lucky he could still even scream. Yet his body refused to move. Physically and mentally, he still had something to spare. The pain was not so bad that he couldn't get back up. It was just that there was a skylight above him, and he could glimpse the dark of the night sky beyond. The feeling that overcame him was a raw. Thank you. Hold on, wait, I'm being called.
Okay. I will go ahead and take over. Actually, Aaron, let's have you take over.
Sure.
Go ahead, just go for this line again.
Sure. Excuse me. The feeling that overcame him was a raw, selfish bout of grief. Oh, it was just so cruel. To have to stare at that for the remainder of whatever short life he had left. Sojiro's ragged breath slowed. For all intents and purposes, he had given up. He had given up fleeing from the pursuing footsteps, and perhaps even the root of all his problems.
Well, at least it was Aozaki who got to kill me.
Sojiro Shizuki felt things that, in any other circumstance, he would never feel. Incidentally, without exaggeration or embellishment, this was the only mistake he had ever made in his entire life. Staring vacantly into the night sky above, Sojiro listened as the footsteps drew nearer.
You give up?
It was the closest her voice had ever been to him. Perhaps feeling that he really had given up, she approached his collapsed form. In the dark, mirror-lined corner, he could not make out her expression. Without a word, Sojiro raised his eyes to meet his murderer.
Suppose, if you don't care, you don't have to ask. Oh, shit. That's her.
I guess this is her.
Yeah.
I suppose if you don't care, you don't have to ask. You really do throw me off. Most people would ask me why I'm going to kill them right about now.
Alko spoke from within the shadows. His eyes widened in bewilderment. Now that she'd mentioned it, he realized that would have been the obvious question to ask. He had more or less picked up on the fact that he was being killed for learning some secret, but it was human nature to want to know more.
That makes sense. Now that you mention it.
A simple affirmation. His face was a mixture of resignation and a forlorn longing. He thought for a moment before.
Wait, hold on. But you don't have to say anything. I don't want to hear it.
I feel like that's her. Or never mind.
Mhm.
He responded in a mature, subdued voice.
Mm.
His response was clear, rather gallantly so.
I see. I'm still going to kill you. Aren't you scared of dying?
Of course I'm scared. It'll probably hurt.
His face turned wry as he objected, to which Alko frowned. As nonchalant as he could be, he was honest about his feelings.
Of course, though, it'd be scary. I'd be scared too, you know. Sorry, though. You'll just need to deal with it. It's okay if you call me a monster. That's exactly what I am right now. I guess in that way, I'm just like you. I don't have what you would call normal morals. Helps when I need to murder someone.
Sojiro's finger twitched in response to her indifferent tone. As if to say that, despite having given up on just about everything, his body could not let those words slide.
Murder is wrong, you know.
We went through this. I know that already.
Aoko raised her right hand. The light from the crest illuminated her face. It goes without saying that her expression was unchanged. She was not crying, nor was she smiling. She was a young woman who had excised her feelings. Deal with it was another thing Sojiro could not let slide. Sojiro could read on Aoko's face that she was not herself. She was in pain, and to a degree he had never seen in her.
Sorry. I guess I do have something to say.
What is it? But don't think you can trick me into letting you go by making me feel bad.
He unconsciously smiled at Aoko's ruthless counter and breathed a sigh of relief. He had misread the pain he saw in her face. This was the same Aoko. Sojiro laughed out loud in genuine joy, a laugh that most other people would have taken as an insult.
I'm starting to regret letting you say your piece. Or should I take that attempt to make fun of me as just that?
Oh, no. I'm not laughing at you. I was just wondering if that person over there was a friend of yours, Saki.
Out of nowhere, Sojiro pointed behind Aoko.
What?
Aoko thought it must have been that old, overused distraction technique. If this had been a Japanese comedy act, this would be the part where she gave him a whack with a paper fan. But after giving it a second thought, she realized Sojiro didn't have the capacity for understanding old or even new tricks.
Let me prepare something real quick. Because I think something is going to happen. Oh, what?
Prepare?
I didn't think of this until now. Let's see if I can get this to play over to you guys as well. But yes. As you can tell, shit is about to go down.
Oh. I see a window in the stream.
Yep, it's... What the... Where'd it go? Ah, we'll just continue on for now, as I wait for that.
What are you...
Perhaps his honest disposition had been to his benefit. Without thinking, Aoko gave in to her curiosity and turned her gaze toward the direction in which his finger was pointed. And there, something that should not have been there in the maze. Something with a creaking wooden smile. It was the ominous, creepy, uncanny figure of a girl.
I'm back. Oh no, I hate her.
What a time for you to be back. A puppet?
An unusual figure with 2 arms and legs stood silently in the darkness.
Hold on. Just grabbing something. Go ahead.
If only for a moment, its beauty, which was even apparent from afar, dulled the insanity of the current situation.
Oh my god, what is happening?
Ah!
Like this, I don't like this, I don't like this!
Extend, extend, extend. The utterly unknown threat made Alco freeze on the spot. Avoiding it didn't even occur to her. Humans possess intelligence and knowledge, but when confronted with the unknown, they fail to process what to do, and...
If you yelled, it clipped and it didn't register.
I just heard a little.
yeah, I heard the littlest mouse
Thanks,
shriek.
Discord!
A classic.
Classic Discord.
Oh, there it goes.
Yikes.
A
Oh my
shriek
gosh.
escaped Alco's mouth, in theory.
In theory, a shriek.
The magical attack crossed the 30-foot gap in an instant. The arm of the girl, who had appeared at the rear of the corridor, was slender and quick. It extended to a near impossible length, striking Alco from behind. Alco crashed into the wall as she fought back an anguished whimper. The attacker retracted her arm.
Go ahead, be Shizuki, Kanye.
Okay. Hosaki!
Sojiro sprang to his feet. He darted to her side and used all the strength he could muster to get her to her feet. Oh, I'm not hearing you at all anymore now, Nancy, I think.
What?
Oh, there you are.
Hi.
I didn't hear your last groan of pain either.
Discord! Trying to fix it.
He could not believe how light she was. In Sojiro's mind, Aoko was an extraordinary individual. He'd expected that if he were ever to touch her, it would be apparent she was far stronger than he. But in reality, she felt about as heavy as you would expect a 100-pound girl to feel. Meanwhile,
She got a bet.
that thing continued to reel in its arm, as if it were some sort of mechanism. Having extended more than 30 feet from the elbow joint, it clacked as it returned to its previous size and shape. Clanked.
Are you okay?
Are you for real? How can you even look at me like that right now?
Aoko tore her hand away from Sojiro's. Suddenly, she felt her knees buckle from under her, but Sojiro caught her before she could hit the ground and helped her to her feet.
Don't push yourself too hard. So, do you know this thing?
Oh, Balance, you have a bot in your chat.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're a
Guess.
little loser in your chat.
And fan. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah. I fought one of its friends a while back.
Aoko grabbed her lower back as she answered. A searing pain shot through her.
It's just a bruise. How can it hurt this much? It could have killed me, catching me off guard like that. Or maybe it can't kill from that distance. No. That can't be it. I must be missing something.
Alco tried to steady her breathing as she assessed the damage done to her back.
Give me 1 second. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
The pain was quick to fade and her breathing returned to normal. For the time being, her motor functions were no longer hindered, which meant the real damage was elsewhere.
Ozaki, you're...
I know, just shut up already.
Blue light glowed across the gloom. The magical energy generated by her breathing was accumulating in her right arm. If magical energy was the fuel, the formula was the igniter. For Alco, this was little more than a reenactment of 2 evenings ago.
Is that some type? It is a type of visual novel. It's Witch on the Holy Night.
It sure is, Ember. Hello.
It's so wonderfully well written, though. I think anyone will enjoy this.
Next time the puppet extended its arm, Alco would fire a magical bullet as far as she could. A battle at approximately 30 feet. As long as Alco could secure a 2-second window, she could create a counterattack to end their duel. It made its move. With its head tilted down, there was no expression to be seen, and in the darkness, its apparent age was impossible to make out. To the 2 humans, the puppet was not dissimilar to a faceless ghost. Its left arm slowly came up with a grinding sound. Its movements were dull, as if the joints were rusty. The right arm, which had been extended earlier, hung at its side. Though the puppet's mouth was hidden by its long locks, the sense was that it was smiling.
It's changing it up. It's attacking from the left.
Oh.
Move it, Shizuki!
She threw herself into Sojiro and extended her hand. Its arm extended at that very moment. The timing was impeccable. In a single second, Aoko's snap bullets scored a direct hit on the puppet's arm, throwing off its trajectory and sending it crashing into the puppet's body with a violent explosion. Or at least, that is what would have happened had the magic formula been invoked.
Huh?
She barely avoided being struck once again. When her magecraft failed her, intuition took over, and she just managed to get away.
She got me! She knew what I was going to do!
She clenched her teeth in frustration, her thoughts racing a mile a minute. Fight or flight? It only had one arm left, which would take time to retract. This was the best shot Aoko had at defeating it. If she could evade the right arm just a fraction, she could get close enough to...
Let's see if I can do this. Vivo l'insomno, solitaire putrescor in inferis. Hic dies mus habitus dies, et mus nativus dies, Theopium.
Oh!
God, that was creepy.
A crackle echoed through the corridor. The poetic murmurs contained enough magical energy for a mage to perceive. The verse itself was Latin, but it contained hints of the language of curses. Gander. Originally, they were words meant to curse a hated adversary. However,
I'll do this in English because there's no way I can read it properly.
Mhm.
My life is immortal, though my future was destroyed. I am a ghost. The definition of life is ethereal. I hate you. I love you. Let us meet in a dream.
the puppet was directing the words at itself. Curses beget curses. The victim calls down a curse on the assailant, creating a vicious cycle of negativity. The incantation was meant to do just that. However, this was ultimately a one-puppet show. An unprecedented source of power, akin to auto-intoxication. As unbelievable as it seemed, the cycle of curses had been turned into a perpetual motion device.
You've gotta be kidding me. Isn't this thing overkill?
Alko abandoned the idea of digging her heels in. It was time to flee with all due haste.
What do you think you're doing? Come on!
She grabbed Sojiro's hand and ran as fast as she could, deeper into the realm of mirrors. I love these foot shots that they're doing with these
Yeah.
mirror
Yeah.
runs,
Mm-hmm.
and how they mirror each other.
Yeah.
But also, those boots.
Yeah.
Yes. The crackling voice continued its murmuring behind them, hopefully to be heard by chat this time.
Okay, let's see. And you guys were able to hear the effect too, right?
Yeah, I could hear it
Okay. My neighbors neglected me. Not an innocent. Hold up. I don't see the... Oh, I think... Hold on. Is the settings not correct? It should be, but it's not receiving...
Can it only direct
Testing.
itself to one thing at a time?
Yeah, is it one of those things where you can only output to one thing at a time?
Maybe. Hold on. Yeah, because I'm looking at my... Let's see. I'm looking at my little software, and it's not going to the thing that I would expect it to. Let's see. If I do this... Test?
Test?
Actually, hold on 1 second. That's not going through either. I really want you guys to hear this because it really adds to the effect. Oh. Okay.
Wasn't me.
Let's see. Check this now. Let me copy. That. And then let's see. Let's mute the game.
That was so funny to hear.
Although I love the mental image of the puppet doing a sound test in the middle of this.
Sound test. 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 Can you hear me?
You do that voice really well. It's a little uncanny.
If it doesn't work, maybe Nancy can just do it.
Yeah.
I did like the way Balance was doing it, though.
Yeah, it sounded great.
It's
It
a...
did.
Which is why I want chat to hear it.
Let's see. Okay, testing. That's still not going through. Let me... just changing something.
My curses need to travel on a certain frequency.
I can only hunt Twitch at certain times of the day.
Okay. Let's see. Oh. Let's see if changing the or restarting the device will actually help it. You know how sometimes audio things don't go through if
Yep. I sure do know this pain.
Alright, let's see. Oh, okay, so like the program itself sends out sound, but like if you're toggling something, but the voice itself doesn't go out, which is interesting. Okay, well, just to save time, we'll go ahead and just have Nancy do it, if you could please. I apologize.
My neighbors neglected me. Not an innocent among us. We are all sinners. We are all sinners. Welcome to my house. May we die a muddy death. From dust to dust. Gouge out my heart.
Getting chills from that, jeez.
This is why you hire real creatives and not let AI take all of our jobs.
Indeed. Death be upon you.
Those eyes, man.
Yeah, dude, that was creepy. Staring into them while reading the text was something else.
Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and take over. Well done, Erin.
Well done.
Well done, Nancy.
And well done. Yeah, especially.
And Kanye, for that matter.
For sure.
Kanye,
Okay.
you're not here, but well done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He'll be back.
He'll be back.
Let's see. Okay, audio's all good. Aoko fought against the pain in her back as she ran through the mirrored corridor. She dragged Sojiro by the hand. Erin, if you could be Sojiro.
Sure. Haozaki, are you okay?
My spine is numb, but it could be worse. My internal organs seem fine, but I don't think I'm bleeding internally.
She cursed inwardly at how much of a mess she felt, though. Unlike Sojiro, Aoko did not run into any transparent walls. Thanks not to her superior sight, but rather preparation. She had hammered the layout of the building into her memory.
Nice.
You're really okay? How can you tell?
Because it's my body. One of the first things a mage learns is how to keep track of your body.
Aoko's matter-of-fact answer contrasted with Sojiro's nervous questioning. The corridor grew shorter with each and every left turn. At first, they were able to advance in a straight line for about 100 feet at a time, but by now, they were forced to turn a corner every 50 feet or so.
Is that the one from the other night?
Probably the same pattern, at least. Whoever's behind it must be pretty wealthy to be throwing a valuable automaton around like it's a toy.
Sojiro furrowed his brows. He was grateful that she was answering his questions, but baffled by the strange words she was using.
Hold up, Haozaki. We've been running for a long time. We're a good corner ahead of it. We can afford to rest a moment.
His words suggested that he was still concerned about her injuries. Aoko shook her head in irritation.
Not enough against something with that kind of range. We need to keep running until we're at least 2 or 3 turns clear at least.
Sojiro nodded. With that matter settled, he asked,
Why didn't you leave me behind?
What do you think? So you couldn't get away, idiot.
Answering curtly, Aoko glared at her naive prey.
That expression on her face was exactly what I needed to see.
The two of them headed for the next corner. Their legs began to slow as they rounded one more. Aoko rubbed her back as she tried to catch her breath. Though Aoko had insisted that she was fine, it appeared to have been bravado. Even the usually clueless Sojiro felt the desperation they were in. He stood behind Aoko with his arms folded. While they had a moment, he tried to make a sense of everything. First, Aoko had nearly killed him. Though he was saved at the last possible second.
Balance?
Balance?
Hello?
Balance, you just went mute.
Oh,
You roboted out and then we can't hear you.
hold on. Let me
Oh.
change something.
Oh, there you are.
Uh-oh. You came back. Hello.
Is this working? Hello? Testing?
Hello.
Okay.
Yell?
Yeah, I was just turning off voice mod.
Ah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it was using mic exclusive mode. That's probably what was going on. Anyway. Strange. Stretchy woman Aoko had burned to ashes 2 nights prior. He could barely make it out that night, but he considered it a her because it looked female. The woman's attack wounded Aoko's back and forced her to flee. Aoko had taken Sojiro with her, claiming that the reason she did so was to prevent her prey from escaping. In other words,
You haven't given up, have you, Awazaki?
Of course not. Even if I had to face 2 of those things, I'd still have plenty left to take care of the likes of you.
her tone was sharp, but even Sojiro could see that she was struggling to stay confident. The damage to her body was too much to afford her any optimism. Still, the fury in her eyes refused to accept her circumstances.
My magic circuits are shorting out like crazy, which means that right arm of hers must be jamming my spells.
Though the proper response would have been for her to tremble in fear, she did nothing but shake her fists in anger. The disruption of formulae was only supposed to work on absolute beginners. If it had been her roommate, the arm would have been repelled the instant it hit her and the attacker's circuits burned out, rather than her own. Attempting to establish a link to the magic circuits of another mage was like presenting your heart on a silver platter. It would be of no use in a battle against a superior mage. And yet, her adversary had been designed to do just that. Coupled with the attacks on areas of Misaki under Aoko's jurisdiction these last few weeks, it was a clear statement from the enemy who had revealed herself as a fellow mage 2 days ago. In other words, the puppet saw Aoko as no threat at all.
Played right into their hands, huh?
While she was still angry, the whirlwind of emotions within her started to fade. Her face was that of a hunter far beyond her years.
You seem to be more concerned about this thing than you were about hunting me.
Well, naturally. I was only playing with you.
Sojiro was not too sure whether to be happy or sad at that. Oh, hello. We have Goo user who accidentally followed. Welcome in.
Why, hello. Thanks for the follow.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that for me too. Well, hopefully you enjoy our reading of Witch on the Holy Night. Moving on.
This is all so confusing that I don't even know where to start. But can I just ask one question?
Aoko didn't respond. Her eyes were focused on the darkness before them. The silence was heavy, and the darkness was like a noose closing in on them. But Sojiro continued in spite of her indifference.
Are you going to kill her too, Alzaki?
A stillness fell over them. It was as if the gloom was pulling them in. No response. Their breathing was the only sound echoing in the dim corridor. There stood Sojiro, forcing her to confront her sins and the magician who continued to ignore him. They spent a few seconds seemingly frozen in time.
Yes. That's a sticking point for you, isn't it?
Aoko whispered in a lifeless tone. Her sigh was tinged with both resignation and contempt.
Sticky. What?
Sticky goo. Nothing. Forget it. But just so you know, that thing that's following us isn't human. You might not believe this, but it's a puppet that can move of its own will, just like the one from the other night.
Sojiro nodded as he processed the information. Not only did he not doubt her story, but he seemed to have accepted it as at face value.
You're awfully calm.
No, wait. I have no idea what's going on, so I'm just trying not to think too hard about it. The part about it being a puppet isn't too surprising to me, though.
What? Are you saying you've seen one before?
What do you mean? Aren't all puppets in the city like that?
What?
She barely stopped herself from falling to her knees. Of course. How could she have forgotten? She was dealing with a bona fide, natural-born moron. As a student who transferred from the isolation of the mountains like an endangered species, his utter lack of common sense rendered anything miraculous as mundane. If automobiles were moving hunks of metal, then moving puppets were nothing to write home about. Wait, that meant, to him, the incident from the other night hadn't been extraordinary at all. He might have even assumed it was an everyday occurrence in the city.
Oh, I give up. You know, I'd really like to get a look inside your head someday. I honestly have no idea how you've made it this far in life. How are you a car?
I could hear him say that.
Oh god, I'm sorry. Who are
We
you
might
a
be in the
car?
wrong series for that, but
Yeah, that's the wrong series for that. Oh boy. No wonder you're such a weirdo. Normally, people wouldn't react the way you did when I attacked you. I could have been a monster or a ghost, but for you, this was just another new fact of life. I'm starting to feel like the real moron here.
Her strained face returned to normal for a moment. It hit her. There had been another way to handle this without anyone getting hurt. But the damage had already been done. There were no do-overs in life, nor should there be. Her own mistaken assumptions had sent that situation spiraling out of control. But now that Sojiro was involved, she had to make sure that her secret was safe with him. Even if there had been another, better option, that ship had sailed. Human relationships were ultimately driven by mutual misunderstandings. They were like tapestries, woven from mismatched intentions.
What did I literally say at the beginning of stream?
Mm-hmm.
What did I... Ah!
It's a long chapter so far. Would we like to take a small break before we continue on?
Hot dang, we've already been at this for 2 hours.
Yeah, how much longer is the chapter? Because I need to go to bed in like half an hour.
Same.
Yeah, I was just going to say it should be, I think, half an hour. There's actually still so much going on in this arc. But
Apparently.
yeah,
Apparently.
I think I would go for maybe another half an hour, and if we don't finish it then, we can obviously just end it there. So, but yeah, I
Okay.
think now is a good time to take a break for everyone,
Yeah, I
including
think
chat.
normally I would go for that, but considering how tired I was today, I feel like I should probably not risk going to bed late.
Yeah.
Okay, 30-second stretch. Go.
I don't know. So I might have to dip out early in that case.
Oh, God.
Okay, you know what? We can actually just say that was good. So let me go ahead and just place that bookmark there then. Because honestly, I don't remember how long that's going to be. And I think that's a good stopping point. So,
And we
Yeah.
definitely saved this time.
Yeah, we
Yes.
saved, right?
mm-hmm.
We won't make this
That
mistake
happens.
again.
So now you two have finally gotten to the part to where it's no longer just like the slice of life part. You have gotten to
Yeah.
more of the action, like which part? How do you guys think of it so far?
Yeah, like I wasn't sure if the murder thing was going to go over, because it does seem like the sort of story where like they wouldn't pull a punch like that, maybe. But also they've built up so much up to this point between Aoko and Sojiro. So it did feel like they probably wouldn't waste that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It was...
So I was like 65-35 on not killing versus killing.
I was at like a firm 50-50. Like, I was like, they wouldn't do that, would they? But they could, and they might. I know the world that this takes place in, and it's not kind to you.
Uh-huh.
So, oh.
And I
was-
don't know these visual novels, so I didn't know if I could put it past them to do all that build up as a full, like, ha, gotcha, he's not sticking around.
Yeah. That's why I was like very 50-50. Like, I wasn't sure if they would actually have like a haha, everything's fine after all.
Were they gonna pull a Psycho or no?
Well, like, Fate Zero is not kind to characters. So if it's in the same vein of that universe, I actually wouldn't be surprised if
Fair
Sojiro was
enough,
actually
yeah.
just like offed.
Yeah, to be fair though, Fate Zero was written by someone different. This was written by, I'm pretty sure it was written by
Right, that was the
Nasu.
Booch, yes.
Okay. Still, the world generally, I guess. It's a pretty cruel one.
It is, and I can appreciate that. Let's see.
Either way.
But yes, it was still fun to see them like go from like cat and mouse, maybe she'll kill him, maybe she won't, to like working on the same side to get away from this thing.
The doll
And
was
also that
creepy.
thing is very cool and creepy.
That
Yeah,
was creepy as all heck.
yeah, I think they nailed like the creepy part on that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think it also adds as like kind of a good way for her to kind of like back away from killing him by introducing a third party that is actually relevant to the story too.
I said in chat earlier, but like the puppet having these like realistically proportioned human eyes in comparison to all the anime eyes does give that like Yuri DDLC effect.
Yeah, it does.
And I also can't unsee the AirPod hips.
Yeah.
Dang it. I can't unsee that now.
Imagine getting killed by some AirPods as automaton.
Oh my gosh. Wild.
It kind of looks like the style of like the robots in iRobot to me.
You know, that's yeah, that is pretty similar.
I see what you mean.
But in any case, yes, I guess that is where we will go ahead and end it